Hey, JC here for retirecheap.asia. I want to talk to you today about something I think is really misunderstood in regards to Thailand. And if you're thinking about coming over here or you're looking from outside in, you need to understand some dynamics. And what I want to talk to you about today is love and relationships over here. Usually I stay away from controversial topics, but I think this really needs to be addressed because I did a video before that was called Mutually Beneficial Relationships, and I could tell from some of the comments people were making on there that they were coming from a place of not understanding some of the dynamics here. And so from the comments on YouTube, forums, and talking to people that are actually over here and my members, I think that it's one of the most misunderstood topics about living over here. So I want to address that today. Now, first of all, there's a disclaimer here. This is about two consenting adults. Anything else that you want to try and throw into this, please keep to yourself. I don't need any of those comments. I don't need any talk about that. And if there's any kind of comments that are off color, then I'll probably have to close the comments on this video. Again, this is about two consenting individuals that are both adults. So it's really important that I talk about this, or I would have just left it off, or just put it in the members site. Now, I did a video series before, and it was called Making Retirement in Thailand a Reality, Values and Beliefs. And to fully understand what I'm going to talk about today, you're going to have to sort of suspend your own values and beliefs just for a minute and try and look at it from a bigger picture or from a different picture, from a different set of shoes. So two of the biggest issues that are causing some of the challenges for people to grasp what relationships are about in Thailand are age and the concept of love. But before I get into these, we have some misconceptions and challenges about relationships here. So the misconceptions are fueled by the media. Media sensationalizes bad news. It always has and always will. You never hear about the thousands of great relationships happening over here and marriages. Those just don't make the papers or make the news because they're not interesting to people. Everybody wants to hear bad news. So what about the bad ones we hear about? Let's talk about those first. Some, and not all of the ones you hear about, are where a Thai ran off with a foreigner's assets. And sometimes this was a well-deserved move. Remember, anybody that comes over here, they bring their self with them. And some people are just jerks back home, and they think they can come over and be even bigger jerks and be here and do things and there'll be no consequences. And it doesn't work that way. They sort of get what they deserve. I've seen some people treat Thais really, really bad. Man, if I was the Thai person, I would have taken all their assets. But having said that, I'm going to make some generalizations. But most of the generalizations will be true, but I know it doesn't apply to everybody. There are exceptions, and so you can't go on and say, oh no, I know a different situation, because I know there's different situations as well. I'm going to generalize here, but I hope you'll understand and get the gist of what I'm going to talk about. So first we'll talk about availability. What kind of relationships are available to foreigners over here? Now, you got to understand Thai culture for a second. Thais, almost all Thais have traveled to Pattaya in the past. It's a vacation, a holiday spot that they go to, and they see what goes on in Pattaya, which is a city of bars, go-go bars, beer bars, and a lot of the people that frequent Pattaya are foreigners. And so they look at all those foreigners and think they generalize as well and say, well, they're just here to shag girls. And so that concept or that idea is pervasive throughout Thailand. So good girls have a challenge being seen with a farang if they're alone with them. Now, this doesn't apply to Pattaya, Hue An, Phuket, and places like that where there's a lot of foreigners, because Thai people see the Thai women with foreigners often, and it isn't an issue. But if you go to smaller towns, there's an issue. If you go to a smaller town with a Thai person, don't hug them, don't grope them while you're sitting on the back of a motorbike, no kissing in public, anything like that, because it goes against Thai culture. Now, multicultural relationships are harder as well, because the beliefs and values are compounded with some language difficulties as well. So you have all these values and beliefs from Thai culture that are opposing some of the values and beliefs of your Western culture. And then, so it makes it a little bit difficult relating to certain situations. Plus, you're throwing on a difference in the language as well. So it's a little bit more challenging to have relationships with Thai people as opposed to people coming from your same thing. Think about this, your friends. The reason your friends are your friends is because you have something in common. And so it's a little more difficult to have things in common. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But so there's a little bit more complications. So because of this, many Farangs, they go to places they shouldn't to meet Thai women, which is mostly where? You can probably guess the answer to that. In the bars. So the bar girls are generally aren't bothered. Those women aren't bothered being seen with foreigners. And they can speak English better. So these are sort of the people that are the choices that foreigners are going to find a relationship. Now, some of these women are really great women, and other ones are very hardened because they've actually been disappointed so many times. Their dreams never came true, and their promises were never fulfilled. And so they hear this stuff over and over from foreigners, and they become sort of hardened by that. And so, but this is where the foreigners are going to find relationships. And you're going to get a wide variety of choices of people to be in a relationship with. But some of those, because their dreams and their aspirations never came true and their promises were broken all the time, they become hardened. And so they'll use the opportunity to be in a relationship to take advantage of somebody. So be very careful about that. Okay. So let's get back to what I really wanted to talk about, which was the concept of age and concept of love. Now, age. Granted, relationships with a big difference of age are going to be more difficult to be in than, say, somebody that's closer to your age group. Now, why would that be? You can probably answer that question. You have less things in common with somebody that's really, really young. But Westerners need to travel to Latin and Asian countries where it's accepted and prevalent to see older men with younger women. Westerners have been taught now through society that older men with younger women are perverts. So take, for instance, David Copperfield, the magician. He's in his 50s, and his wife is in her 20s. What about him? Is he a pervert too? I mean, it's really interesting to me where we draw the lines, and our culture helps define that, where we draw the line as to what's socially acceptable and what isn't. So, I mean, there's a prime example of, okay, it's okay for him, but it's not okay for a foreigner that's living in Thailand or in an Asian country to be doing it. You got to think about that, But this is what we do as human beings. It's our nature to do that. So I understand it. So ask yourself, what does this represent to you through your values and your beliefs? And I guarantee it's different for you than for Latins and Asians living in their native countries. Now notice I said living in their native countries, still living in their native countries, because once they move out of their native countries and go, say, to America, they take on the beliefs and values of that country. And so they might change their viewpoint by looking around and saying, well, it's not acceptable where I live. And then all of a sudden, well, then it's not acceptable to me because I live here now. And then the opposite happens, that somebody might have felt, well, that's not so cool. And then come over and say, well, this is prevalent here. It's socially acceptable. Everybody seems to accept it. Then they might change their values and beliefs as well. So, what's the difference in how people in Latin countries and Asian people are seeing older men and a relationship with them? Well, they might be seeing older men as more stable or more accomplished or more successful, things like that. I've heard hundreds of stories living over here where young boys have fathered children with young girls and use all the money and then run off with another girl. This is very prevalent behavior here. So, you know, looking at an older person that has money and more stable, it looks actually like a pretty good deal. It looks like a person that has good qualities you'd want in a relationship, and that's just the way it works here. So now off to the biggest misconception that Farang have about relationships in Asian countries, and that's the concept of love. You know, Farang will say, you know, back home looking from their set of values and beliefs, they'll say emphatically that relationships with older men and younger women aren't about love. It isn't about love. It's about some kind of financial relationship or something, but it can't be about love. That what I called in the earlier video, mutually beneficial relationship, cannot be a loving relationship. These people just can't be in love. Well, I'm here to tell you, it doesn't work that way. You got to be able to see it through a different set of eyes, through a different set of values and beliefs. This Western concept of marriage and relationships and this thing about soulmates and waiting to fall madly in love, yeah, it happens here. But to fully understand the difference between Western culture and here in relationships and love, you'd have to go back a couple of generations, which would be my grandparents, but for some people might even be their great-grandparents, where there were one-income families. You know, one person went out and worked. So what did the men and women look for back then in spouses, as opposed to nowadays? Okay, let's take women first. Women look for what? A breadwinner. That term breadwinner is they refer to a single income family in which one of the members of the family worked to generate income while the other one stayed home. This was very common. In fact, it was common when I was growing up and was a kid. Someone had to financially support the household and support raising a family. That's what women looked for. They looked for a man that could do that and be stable. What did men look for? They looked for a good homemaker to take care of the needs of the home and a good mother to raise and nurture the kids. I mean, this is what we looked for. So this is similar to what the relationships are found in Thailand. As you can see, the older men, younger women scenario still fulfill these roles. And so also the men are more mature and settled, hopefully, and the women aren't bitter yet from failed relationships and broken promises, unless, of course, they've worked in the bar. And then there's a lot of that. But anyway, you can see how these dynamics are still in play here. I also want to talk for a second about the notion that foreigners are only walking wallets. This is prevalent here. And I can understand, again, from our beliefs and values, why we feel this way. But realize the minimum wage in Thailand is only 300 baht. And that's the equivalent of about $10 a day. There's no social security system to help the elderly as they get older here. The responsibility of food, clothing, maintaining the house, paying the utilities, and all the medical costs for the parents rests on who? The children. The children have to do that. There's no government assistance. So what the foreigners are coming over here don't understand is this was the goal of the person that they're in a relationship with before they met them. This is what they did. They woke up every day to go to work, get an education, go to work, get a job, and send part of that income back to the family to help mom and dad, because mom and dad still have bills. So before you met the person, that's what they were doing. Remember, the goal here, from the time they start going to school, is always to better their situation, to increase their status, increase the money. Why? Because they want to be a good child. They want their parents to be proud of them. And they want to take care of their parents to the best of their ability before their parents pass away. And so that's their goal. And anything that they can do to accomplish that is what they're going to do. But it's interesting dynamic, though, because it doesn't fall evenly on all the children of the family. I've noticed this. Some children are smarter. They have a better education, or they have a stronger desire to achieve, and they seem to take on a bigger burden or a bigger percentage of that piece of the responsibility than others. And this also includes the less fortunate members of the family as well. They'll also help them out because they're in a better situation. The person in the best situation are the ones that have more of the responsibility. I just saw this where one girl helped the sister of a brother. The girl helped her brother out to help pay a dowry to the family of the girl he was marrying because he didn't have the money, what they wanted for him to marry her. So she went ahead and stepped up and helped out. And I always see some Thai member of the family paying most of the bills, and I ask, well, why aren't your brothers and sisters helping out more? And the answer is always, they can't. And they have no animosity towards those people for them being in having a bigger burden put on them. There's just no animosity. They don't worry about it. So anyway, now in this situation, a Farang steps in. Now think about this. The Farang travels, doesn't work, eats out almost every meal, spends more money in a day doing nothing than most Thais make in a whole day working. In some cases, don't even want their Thai partner to work. And then the Thai partner asks for money to help out their family, and which might be their obligation and their role in the family. And the foreigners think, oh my God, they're taking advantage of me. That's not necessarily the case. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's not necessarily the case. Now that you're a part of this family structure, it's an obligation for you, just like it was for the person that you're in a relationship with. And the perception might be that you've elevated the status of this person you're in a relationship with and increased their income because of being in a relationship with you. And so now the perception of the village and the family is that they're going to have a greater responsibility to the family. Because they're in a better situation. And so as the situation betters, the obligation increases. Does that make sense to you? So children support the circle of life here and take care of the parents and the families living here. That's just the way it works. And in many cases, the grandparents take care of the grandchildren so that the children can go off and earn money, knowing that when the grandchildren get older, they in turn will take care of their parents. It's a big circle of life because there is no social security system here. Now, what Farang's looking in with a different set of values and beliefs can't understand that these women can truly love a man for making their lives and the lives of the families better. That just doesn't equate. Well, that can't be true love. Well, this is the type of love Westerners just can't seem to grasp. And maybe, in my opinion, it might even be a stronger love than one that's made up of, a feeling of true love. So, I just wanted to elaborate on all this because I think it's really important if you're thinking about coming over or you're looking from outside looking in with your own set of values and you're judging these relationships. Yes, it is mutually beneficial. Everybody wins, but shouldn't that be the situation in jobs, in relationships, in anything in life? It shouldn't be one person taking from another. It should always be mutually beneficial to everybody involved. And I think that's what sort of created the misconceptions surrounding my video and what my intention was. Yes, both people benefit, but it's socially acceptable here. It's normal. Whereas looking from the outside with Western values and beliefs, we look and say, well, that can't be true love. He's just buying their time. And in some cases, that's the truth. But in other, I know people working back in the West that the employer is buying their time. They're wasting away their life in a job that they don't appreciate and they don't like for money, which to me is prostitution. I think many people in America, they go to work doing things that they don't want for the sole purpose of money. But here, like I say, it's beneficial. Somebody comes into another person's life and they can help out them and the family. They love that person. They offered them an opportunity they might never have had in their life to have a better life for themselves, a better life for their family. And they love a person for doing that. I've seen this over and over. In fact, I see sometimes where the situation turns around and all of a sudden that person doesn't have the opportunity to help out as much as they could have. And I'm thinking, oh, the Thai person's going to bolt for sure. And they don't. I said, why? And he said, because I pity the person, you know? I love the person, and I pity them for now being in this bad situation because it's bad for them as well, for the foreigner as well. And the Thai person sticks and hangs in there with them. And so we don't hear about those relationships, but they're here, and they do happen. And so I wanted to clear this up. So I hope you understand that you think a little bit before judging these relationships, that both parties have obligations to support each other and can truly care and love each other for doing that, and for fulfilling those obligations and giving each other a better life than they had before. So try not to let your evidence procedure for what a loving relationship should be, and don't allow it to cloud your perception and be imposed on another culture. I think that you need to bring those set of flexibilities and your beliefs to all areas of society here and things that you see around you. So I hope this has been helpful and insightful and clears up a lot of confusion regarding Thai society and Thai relationships. So remember, when it comes to having a relationship in Thailand or anywhere else in the world, there's always an option. Take care. JC out.